In the game of poker, there are two separate but equally important types of players. The recreational players that are just looking to splash around and have a good time, and the wrecks that are trying to take every dollar that isn't nailed down. These are their stories.
When we were first seated at this table, we were given the 9 seat, which isn't the best for my style of vlogging, so I didn't record the first 40 minutes until I was able to move to an end seat. I was up about $100 when I got moved, mostly due to a successful 3-barrel bluff with a busted flush draw. So we pick up the action on this hand under the gun +1 with King Jack offsuit. In a normal world, this would be a fold from early position, but I had already figured out that the entire table had a 3-bet range of queens plus, so I could get away with a little more wider opens, especially if I was willing to keep the pressure on post-flop. I open to 15 and get called in 2 spots. Flop comes down ace-king-10 with a couple of clubs. Second pair and a gutter isn't the best, but not the worst in the world either. Most of these guys are ready to die with an ace unless the board gets really scary, so I do need to tread carefully. We all check around, so maybe there aren't any aces out there. Turn is as blank as it gets with a 6 of hearts. After the flop checks, I think I can bet small for value. I fire out 20 and quickly get called by middle position and the hijack jams for less. I'm done with this hand now unless I hit an offsuit queen on the end. The river comes special delivery with the queen of hearts giving me the nuts.
Oh, nuts.
Now I'm hopeful that the middle position guy has 2 pair, as I figured that's really the only kind of hand that'll pay me off. I fire out 65 targeting 2 pair and get called pretty quickly. I show him the bad news and I'm good for the side pot. Hijack shows me the same hand and we chop up the main. At least I was able to get some good value on the end from the side. About half an hour later, I pick up ace-deuce suited in middle position and open to 15. Lately, my opening size has been at least 5x on these types of games. I've experimented with different sizings over the years, and I've come to the conclusion that if people want to play, they're going to play, pretty much regardless of sizing unless you get extreme. Last night, for example, I was playing 1-3 and I watched a guy open under the gun +1 to $40 and get called in 2 spots. Just a standard 13x open getting action. So my thought is to open big enough to build a pot when I have one of the better hands, but small enough to keep the SPR high so I have playability post-flop. A hand like ace-deuce isn't that great in a vacuum because there's no hand you truly dominate. You're a slight favorite against suited connectors and Broadway combos, but way behind all other aces and pocket pairs. Now with all that said, I feel like I can run these guys over if we both miss. I mean, what's an opponent going to do with pocket sixes on a king 10-3 kind of flop when I bet out at them? I can't go nuts with it, but I can punch them in the mouth once and see if they fall down. Anyways, the low jack and both blinds come along and we take the flop 4-handed. King 8-6 with 2 clubs. This is the exact kind of flop I was talking about. And as an added bonus, I have a ton of equity against King X here. Both blinds check and I want to get more money into the pot. Maybe I can take it down without making a hand, or maybe I'll have to resort to plan B and hit a club. It's good to have options. I go half pot to clean up the trash that missed. A king is never going to fold here, so I'm targeting all the pocket pairs under an 8, random 6x's, unpaired Broadway cards, etc. Any one of those hands I can make fold increases my equity. The low jack folds, which is great. Now I have position against 2 very wide ranges in the blinds. Small blind calls, but we lose the big blind and we're heads up. Turn is a 7 of hearts. All things considered, not a great card. A lot of straight draws just paired, so they won't fold to a second barrel, and a few gut shots got there. When the small blind checks, I'm happy to check behind and realize my equity. I don't think I'm getting much of anything to fold here with the turn bet. If the river bricks out so the straights don't come in and I miss my club, I think I can go about half pot and get all the pairs under a king to fold out. I don't think a king will fold at all, so these are the kinds of hands I need to target if I miss. Or I can just bank the nuts. That'll work too. If he's in there with a hand like 9-7, I should be able to get paid. If he's got smaller clubs, that's great, and I might be able to get stacks if he leads out. King X is going to have trouble standing any kind of heat unless I go super small. Small blind checks so I can remove the king high flush from his range. I go half pot to target straights and 2-pair type hands. Lots of stuff out there that can call 60. And another thing to notice, he's got about 130 on his stack, so 60 won't hurt too bad. A lot of these OMCs play cash like it's a tourney. They'll pay you off if you don't make them play for all of their stack. He tanks for about 10 or 15 seconds before calling it off, so I feel like this was the best size. A snap call means I could have gotten more. I show him the goods and the pot gets shipped my way. This session is starting to look like it could be one of those days. 3 hands later, I'm in the big blind. The under the gun straddles, and after a couple of limpers, I call up my sponsor and we go to an AA meeting. One dynamic about straddle pots here in Tunica, The max buy-in on the 1-3 games is only $300, so a straddle makes the game short stacked right away. We're only playing 50 big blinds deep max unless you happen to run into another player that's built up a stack. And it could be for a lot less, as a lot of these OMCs buy in for less than max or have lost some chips already. A $100 stack is only 16 bigs. So in straddle pots I can't be speculating as much with small pocket pairs, suited connectors, etc. It plays more like a tourney where big cards reign supreme. Fortunately, aces fit the bill nicely in this situation, so I pop it up to 30. In a deeper game I would go more, especially out of position, but I'll easily be able to get stacks in by the river if I want to at this stack depth, and I don't want to scare off the limpers too much. They'll happily call an 8x raise at 1-3, but if I were to 8x a $6 straddle, they'd get a lot tighter. The straddle and cutoff feel like 30 is a fair price to pay for second place, and we take the flop 3 ways. Jack, Jack 9 Rainbow. This could have connected with either player, lots of straight draws available, and Jack X is now the realm of possibilities. On an unpaired dry board, a check is an option here, as they will often monkey stab with all sorts of garbage we have crushed, and we can call or check raise depending on our read and if there's a caller in between. On this dynamic board I want to get money in the middle, but give them a chance to tell me how strong they are. I bet out small so that all the straight draws and 9s will call and the Jack X will raise. Both players call the quarter, and a beautiful 3 of spades falls on the turn. Same strategy as the flop. There's a chance one of these guys still played a jack, but they will raise on the turn for sure if I bet small. They want to get the money in before the river, and they just won't be able to help themselves. That being said, if the cutoff jams for his last few dollars, I don't think I can fold here. Again, it's the short stack dynamic coming into play. I lead out for 30 this time. Under the gun folds after some deliberation, but the cutoff calls. Notice how he picks up his cards for a second glance? This is usually a sign that he has something, but not nutted. If he had Jack X here, he wouldn't be so cavalier with his cards. He would be afraid his neighbor might see them and give something away. So it's a pair or a straight draw of some sort. 8 of clubs on the river isn't my favorite, as the obvious draw of Queen 10 gets here. It shouldn't be threatening to the 9x, however, so there's still some value there. He's sort of short stacked, so I'm kind of in a tough spot. If he jams, I'm getting 8-1, but am I ever winning here against a river jam from a short stack? Doubtful. But if I'm honest, I don't think I'm good enough to fold to a jam here, so whatever. I bet out just under a quarter pot, targeting 9x or even a 9-8 that got there, hoping for a call and not a raise. He calls off and I know I'm good before we even put the cards on our back. Small targeted bets in a straddle pot got me 3 streets of value and almost the cutoff's entire stack without much pain or fuss. In this next hand there are a couple of limps in front of me and I look down at 7-5 suited in the small blind. No need to inflate the pot with a speculative hand, and fold equity is minimal against limpers in low stakes. The big blind checks his option and we take the flop 4 ways. Flop comes down ace 9-8 rainbow, so we have a gutter and not much else going on here. I check and the big blind checks behind. Under the gun bets 6 and the cutoff folds before it's back to me. I know I'm about 10.5-1 to turn my straight, and the pot is laying me 3-1 right now. So if it hits on the turn, I'll need to extract another 45 by the river to make this call worth it. If he has an ace, that should be easy enough, so I call looking for lightning in a bottle. The big blind folds and the river is literally the best card in the deck for me. The 6 of diamonds completes the Badoogie and gives me the straight. Now it's time to extract the value. I decide on the home run here and go for a check raise. He continues for 25 and I pop him back to 80. He stops and thinks, and I might have gotten a little greedy here, but I want it all. If he calls this, that'll leave a pot-sized bet left on the end for a stack. I'd probably go about 150, but I gotta build this pot if I want a chunky river bet. He folds after about 30 seconds. I wonder if I would have flatted the turn and then led river for 60 or 70 if I would have gotten paid, but overall no regrets about how I played this one. Leave me a comment below on how you would have played this turn. A few hands later, I'm in the low jack and squeeze out 2 black jacks. Under the gun 1 opens for 20, and that makes this a real easy 3-bet to 60. This should clear the field and get me heads up and in position against the opener. Ace deuce 5 rainbow isn't what I ordered, but we're going to have to make it work. Under the gun 1 checks, as I expect him to do with his entire range. I check behind as I don't see anything worse calling or anything better folding to a bet here. Ace of spades is a good card, as it reduces the aces he could have, and it'll put a righteous fear into his soul when I bet the turn. He checks and I bet small for 35. I want to keep in all his 10s and middling pocket pairs. If he has queen-queen, well, that's just part of his range I lose to, and I have to be okay with it. He flats the 35 after some consideration. If he had an ace here, I'd expect a raise. River queen of hearts should be a brick unless he held on with king-queen on a gutter draw, which I don't really expect from this guy. He checks again and I just roll over my jacks. It's doubtful I could have got worse to call here, and he could still be checking ace rag. I feel like he has showdown value, as do I, so let's just see what wins. He shows 9-9 and I take down another one. I'm starting to think that I could book a 1K session if things keep running my way. Nearly an hour passes before this next hand. In the interim, I had flopped a set and picked up a small pot when everyone folded, but nothing else really interesting happened. I'm under the gun here and I look down at the queen jack of clubs. This is a standard open for me and I go to 15. The hijack, who posted 3 after returning to the table, calls, as does the cutoff. The blinds get out of the way and we take a flop 3 ways out of position. 6-5-4 with 2 clubs. You ever run so well you just know you're going to make your hand? That's where I'm at right now. I feel totally in control and it might be a bit of ego, but whatever. It feels good to run good. I lead out for 30 and get the riffraff out of there and build a pot with equity. The hijack folds, but the cutoff comes along with me and we see a turn. Queen of spades is not the draw I was chasing, but I'm not going to send it back. Top pair is good, but this board is so wet it's slick. If he wants to chase a straight or backdoor spades, it's going to cost him. 75 is the price of admission here. I want to get a chunk in before the board gets any worse, and we need to shut it down if we don't improve. One thing I didn't notice is that he only had $32 left. Sure, I'd like to get 75 here and more on the river, but 32 to get to showdown isn't the worst option on this run out. And it's not like I really have any options at this point, so here we go. River is the king of spades, and I roll over my hand. He must have missed, and the sun run continues. 2 hands later, I'm in the small blind. Hijack opens to 15. I'd been at this table for over 2 hours, and this is the first time I'd seen this guy make any aggressive action pre-flop. Usually when I see this from this type of player, it's queens plus, maybe jacks, and ace-queen suited. That's it. If I have position and I can get in for a single raise and we're both deep, I'll get in there with all sorts of nonsense trying to nuke them because the OMCs just can't fold over pairs. I'm out of position in this one, so I'll just have to play the best hand with this guy. I squeeze out aces for the second time this session, and my many years of extensive poker playing and studying tell me that I'm ahead of his range here. He's not folding for anything reasonable, and I estimate he has about 325 left behind. Shouldn't be too tough to get it all in by the river if I want to dance. I bump him up to 40. The big blind is folding before my chips are out of my hand, and he calls without much hesitation. 8-6 deuce, all hearts. This should not have hit him. I've got the ace of hearts, so flop flush is out of the question. There's just no way he opened with king queen of hearts or worse, or 8s, 6s, or deuces. If I want to get action, I have to hope he has kings or queens with a heart. If that's the case, he's nearly drawing dead, and he'd probably be willing to get stacks in. I go half pot for 45. As I tossed out my bet, I can see him go back to his hand for a suit check. He must have a heart with his pair because he doesn't take too long to ship it. Well, this is what I wanted, right? Quick double check for the ace of hearts myself. Yep, still there. Let's do this. I slap down a calling chip and we're off. 9 of spades is clean. King of diamonds is a little worrisome, but nothing I can do about that. I show the rockets and he tosses queens with the queen of hearts into the muck, and I quickly scoop up the biggest pot of the session, and we're now up over 1,000 in less than 3 hours. First of all, sorry about the bad lighting. My light ring literally took a dump as I was recording this outro, so we had to make do with what we got. That's all we got for the first half of the session I played in Tunica. Next half will be up in a couple of weeks. I'm going to be in Austin starting this Sunday, the 16th, I believe it is, and I'm going to be there for 8 days, firing a few bullets in the half milli tournament and playing lots of 1-2. I don't even bother with the 1-3 game there, to be honest with you. The 1-2 has a $500 max buy-in. The games get wild, even for a 1-2 game. I still think I can make $100 an hour playing there, so hoping to bring home a lot more than I went there with. As far as my challenge of not playing any games that aren't poker, it shouldn't be too hard to do, seeing there's really nothing out there in Texas to do except play poker. Sports betting isn't even legal, so we should be good with that. The final announcement is that due to this trip I'm taking to Austin, this will be the last vlog I have put up for a couple of weeks. I will have a few sessions recorded while I'm out there, so after this Tunica trip wraps up, you'll be seeing some of my play out there in Austin. Hopefully I can book some wins, and even if I book some losses, maybe we can all learn something from it. Anyways, that's all I got for you tonight. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.